Hello and welcome to Progcast, the number one music podcast for every just music nerd in general, man. Honestly, I'm joined by the awesome Orson.
Yeah. And this is the first one in the series.
First episode of the series. And we're starting off pretty damn strong, you know what I'm saying?
Music.
Yeah. Well, as people who may not know about our podcast, we talk about music quite a lot. You know, we're big music nerds. We appreciate all music equally. Some more than others. Taylor Swift, we don't like that very much, do we? You know what I mean? But that's just, you know, no, it's not for us, you know? We just like what we like. And today we'll be talking about the 1971 Pink Floyd album, Metal, which we both really, we're so looking forward to this. You know, it's something we're really passionate about. We both really like the album. Both.
For the record, that's what's playing in the background. Yeah. And setting the mood.
Sounds good, doesn't it? But we're just kind of we're going to talk about it today. But before we get started into the first tracks, I think we should talk about the album cover. Now I actually have it with me here, right here, and I actually think that I just really admire the album cover for what it is. I mean, do you think it?
Really cool.
From you know,
it's really interesting, and it's a huge break from their usual psychedelia to do with space, and taking more of a look at what's down here into the depths, into the sea.
Exactly, man. Honestly, I think from their more experimental psychedelic rock, I would say more to their progressive,
definitely
spacey
more psychedelic
sound
than prog.
Definitely, 100%. I would say. I think it's a good blend. It works really well. I mean, you got the first track, which we're going to talk about in a minute, but. For those who don't know, the album cover of Metal is actually a ear. Yeah,
just an ear under the water.
I just love the photography techniques that were used to create this. Are really, really well done.
It looks really good. You wouldn't be able to tell it was, you know, that's the good thing about buying vinyl as well, as you can really appreciate the art as well as the music. It's like a whole process, you know.
I think with vinyl you can appreciate just everything equally, you know, the artwork, the music itself.
I mean, it's the only form of physical music there is, I suppose. You know, it's just all vibrations. You can play a vinyl with a pot noodle and a pin if you want.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you can play vinyl with a £5 note, especially the new British plastic ones. You would as well. And but yeah, literally.
Yeah, well, we're
going to talk about the first track, shall we? The opening track, the explosive opening rock track, you'd say, which is One of These Days, which is probably one of my favourite kind of I don't know, first opening track to an album.
I suppose that's probably one of their, well, it would have been the first ever track that people heard where their sound was more prevalent, or what they were going to continue to do with their sound.
It just worked. I mean, the dueling bass at the start, just that dueling, and the
lots of echo and reverb.
It just kind of showed. Well, I wouldn't say it kind of reflects the whole album, because it's very. I think it's very their first take on something like that.
It's a very the first side starts off very strong, but it's quite relaxed the first half of the album, isn't it? Before you get to echoes, and that's kind of the whole thing about it. Which is why I like it. It's got a lot of mellow peace and a lot of moments where you just want to, headbang.
Exactly, and it kind of just, I don't know, it just sounds a lot different. I mean, it kind of reflects with echoes as well. I mean, it's just purely, I would say it's instrumental. People would argue it's semi-instrumental. I mean, that bit where Richard Wright says it?
Richard Wright.
Was it Nick Mason?
Oh, what, the album?
No, when he says the, One of These Days.
Oh, One of These Days.
Yeah, that bit. I can't remember who it was. But people argue that it's semi-instrumental.
I think it was Nick Mason.
I think it was Nick Mason.
It's a very Nick Mason-focused song, I think.
It just sounds like him as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, just that opening explosive guitar, the steel as well. Yeah.
And there's a relationship between the steel and the drums for that song. If you look at any live things, you know, live at Pompeii, obviously. There's a whole section with call and response almost between Nick Mason on the drums and David Gilmour on slide guitar.
I'm not sure if you heard the Delicate Sound of Thunder recording of
I
Money.
I haven't heard the Delicate Sound of Thunder recording of
There's
Money.
a bit in Money when it comes to that where they do call and response. Gilmour would go and then the bass would go I was like, ooh!
Well, they planned on having that little section in the solo where it all cools down a bit. I think he said he wanted that to have a feel of you know, just four guys jamming in the garage kind of thing with a crank down.
Yeah, I don't know, it just has that sort of otherworldly kind of spacey feel. I think this is definitely the first sound.
That's definitely
and
still
one of these
there.
days definitely reflects kind of like the new sound they're going for. You know, they're pushing new musical limits.
Well, this is 100% the first album where they found what they were good at.
Exactly, man. I mean, people argue Atom Heart Mother, for example, the one that came before this 1970 album. I wouldn't say that's when they found the sound. I would definitely say they experimented with a lot of different techniques.
It's a good sound. It's a very good sound.
Very good sound. Very good sound.
If you're into it.
But yeah, it's not for everyone. But
no.
the deep cuts on it, especially the singles as well, just matter. But anyway, after one of these, it goes into
back to
Pillows.
the album we're supposed to be talking about. Sidetracked.
Oh man, that's just what it's all about, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then actually just the transition to Pillow of Winds, which is the second track.
Pillow of Winds is. I'd say 100% my favourite song on the album.
Oh, dude, honestly.
After Echoes.
Yeah, Echoes is really good.
Yeah.
Pillow of Winds is really good. I just really like the slow. It quiets down, but not just abruptly, not anticlimactically. It flows really nicely into next, and it goes.
Yeah. Oh,
it feels right. It just feels like it should. That's how it should sound.
And there's that the song and that. I think it's the guitar he plays on it's tuned to a variation of open tuning. So but it's not major or minor key, which means when he's playing it, you can't tell which it is, which also means he can lean in of major and minor to make, you know, solo and guitar playing more expressive and things. It's great.
Exactly, man. And I just think it just really works with that wind machine.
Oh, yeah.
All that wind machine on it.
I think it's literally just a bunch of balls.
It is,
machine,
my dad showed me a clip of when they did the... I want to say they did that song live with Fearless.
Yeah. Oh man!
And it just literally it's just him sitting there, just with a bunch of. I'm like,
it's so cool.
And it just sounds amazing. I really, really enjoy it. But yeah, honestly, Pillow of Winds is a great. I think very underrated as well. It's a deep cut. It's considered a deep cut because of its it's underrated.
Yeah. Well, I've heard a lot of people say it's slow and.
Yeah,
boring.
it's a lot. It's slow. Yeah, but you got to appreciate just how that is for the band. I mean, the band's sound. You can't compare it to one sort of singular sound. It's not a rock sound. They made that sound for years of
it's timeless,
experimentation with just different sounds and different instruments as well. It's definitely even just different like techniques as well. I mean, Gilmour's like blues techniques completely show differently in this album from like
100%.
Dark Side or the War actually really literally
his
so different.
The live at Pompeii solo for the track Echoes is so vastly different, as you were saying, man. I mean, I think he plays more over the chord progressions and things, but it's really unique because he doesn't play like that on anything else. It's really odd.
Exactly,
period.
and coming to that as well, that they play this version. I mean, this album specifically, Metal. They play one of these days, Pillow Winds Fearless, which is the track we're going to come to next, actually, as well. That comes, they play it all differently. They always
every time. Yeah.
It's just that just works. It just makes it more interesting. Not even just more interesting. It just makes it. More like it just spices things up as well. You know what I mean?
This album I like because it does have that quality of more of a jam band, whereas they started to lean more towards prog. So they had that kind of psychedelic jam vibe in the 60s, and then moving on to the 70s, and we get to 72 with metal, and they're finally like, oh, okay, I kind of think I like what we're doing with this, and it's 100% their first masterpiece of an album. Easily.
I would definitely agree. I really do like the albums that come before.
Yeah.
But you just can't argue that this is their first like proper album where they thought, right, this is good.
Well, it's some people's favourite over Dark Side.
It's one of my favourite.
Yeah,
my favourite personally is Animals.
Yeah.
That's just because I love that album. That's probably my favourite album of all time, next to Dark Side or Momentary Lapse of Reason, which is just.
Oh, yeah.
But listen to that as well. That really does sound good. Yeah.
Dogs. Dogs of War.
That's Learning to Fly. Anyway, after it comes into Pillow of Winds, which is a very nice mellow sort of change of theme, it goes back into a more rocky theme. I'd say it's a mix because Fearless is, you could say it's mellow, but you could also say it's kind of rocking upbeat. I mean, the song is literally about a guy, you know what I mean? It's
it's about Syd Barrett as well. I think there's a few references.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I saw something about that. Personally, I couldn't see it, but then maybe I wasn't listening enough. But...
There's a line in it somewhere that says, fearlessly the idiot faced the crowd smiling. I think that's a reference to, if you don't know about Syd Barrett, basically he, in the 60s, the pressure of the pop music industry and things, and drug abuse was like acid and LSD.
He did for a lot of drug use, which actually people did say influenced his sound, but I personally think, I mean, he sounded like
had it in him easily.
Yeah, he already had it in him, but I could definitely see how people think that. But anyway,
it probably did. I mean, it's impossible for a drug like that not to. But.
I mean, yeah, they say that is it creates creativity, induces creativity, and it opens
also,
your mind up to something that you didn't think was there.
Yeah. But also leads to addiction and frying your brain, which is essentially what happened to him.
Be careful with that stuff, man. Honestly, yeah.
He went insane eventually, and that's apparently that lyric. What we were talking about is basically he, apparently got up on stage with an acoustic guitar. Everyone was waiting for him, and he detuned all the strings, strummed it, and sat there and smiled.
Yeah, I heard about it. It was also as well. Yeah, honestly, I feel like a lot of their albums do reference Syd Barrett, or if not Syd Barrett, Syd Barrett's decline into madness. Because literally his solo album, the introduction to Syd Barrett.
That first one,
that actually kind of, in a way, relates to metal in some of its chord progression and some of its sounding.
Yeah,
it's just
I know
honestly,
what you mean.
Yeah, it just sounds really, really kind of relevant because I really think most of the albums are linked to that sort of incident and stuff.
Well, his spirit stayed with him the whole way through.
Exactly, man. I mean, he was referenced constantly. He was respected amongst the band, family and stuff. Honestly. Yeah. But anyway, before we go into our next track, we're going to have a word from our sponsor. Music Bean & Co. A local shop in our town. They sell all sorts of vinyls, music equipment, everything you could really need. It's a music heaven. They sell coffee as well. Just go check out. If
really
you're in the local
Camden
area or any shops like that even, just shout out to all those shops like that.
Go
yeah,
down
exactly.
and listen to music, have a cup of coffee, man.
Yeah, and then just
really
chill. We're going to talk about Saint-Tropez.
Saint-Tropez. That's a Roger song, isn't it?
That is Roger's.
I
think he actually that was the only song he wrote.
Really?
I think he wrote all the lyrics, but all the instruments were written. That's different. Animals, he takes the credit.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean. Metal, I feel like this is before his big ego rise.
They're very collaborative on this.
Yeah, exactly. It just it sucks when I've done it, but
Saint-Tropez.
One of my favourite deep cuts.
It's got a sort of Latin feel to it, doesn't it?
It does. It sounds really
as I reach for
foreign, but really.
Yeah,
it just sounds so nice and colourful, doesn't it?
Tropical kind of vibe to it, walking around,
I can just see myself in like a really nice kind of like
a
European
beach in Portugal
just like Portuguese beach, Saint-Tropez itself. I mean, I've seen the pictures, man. They really do look good. You know what I mean? But man. It's a really good. It's just a nice song. I feel like it just.
it's really.
It just really is just about being happy, isn't it? It's just a nice, happy song, It just really is nice. And that obviously leads on to Seamus, which has a lot of controversy.
Yeah.
Not because of, the messages behind it or anything like that, just because it doesn't sound as some people like it. I mean...
It's an old folk blues
It's an old folk blues song, so it's not going to be for everybody.
Seamus, that's the dog outside, and then they actually, when this guy played the harmonica, they had that dog that barked, and that's what you hear. It's just...
so that wasn't actually meant to be in the song?
Yeah, well, no, I think it was... Richard Wright or David Gilmour or something. It's like, look what happens when I play the harmonica. And the dog that they were living with, I think they recorded most of this album in France, just started barking or something. So that completely accidental. Accidents.
I kind of do like it. It sounds different. I mean, I don't think they've really released a song like that.
I suppose you could say it's gimmicky, if you like.
It's gimmicky. It's different.
But, yeah.
I respect it. It's not my favourite. I would definitely listen to the whole album. I would listen to the whole album. I wouldn't skip a song like that. It's not my favourite. People do say it ruins the album, but I think that's very...
that's ridiculous.
That's ridiculous. Each to their own. But
well, I suppose I love old blues, Robert Johnson and Pink Anderson, which is who they got their name off.
Exactly,
Syd
yeah.
Barrett loved old folk blues players like ragtime things and stuff. That's what it's inspired by. So if that's what you think, you won't
it is
like
really. I mean, it's not everyone's thing. Some people think the dog does,
yeah.
throw them off.
Well, that is probably the most gimmicky part of the whole song.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of makes it for me. I mean, without Seamus, I wouldn't see Metal as Metal. I'm not gonna lie.
No,
I guess you couldn't see it without
has to be
anything.
on there,
I mean, it just has to be on there. I think that's just the way we've seen it, just the way we know it as.
That's why it's a masterpiece, because it's not perfect, if you like.
I mean,
But
it's
some of
not
it is.
perfect. It's just, you can definitely tell there is stuff there.
Yeah.
It's just, you can tell something's missing.
Yeah,
I think it's just them. They're still finding their sound at this point. I mean, they've found it. They're getting there, but they're just not there.
I think if I'll talk about that when we move on to it, I suppose.
Yeah, I think it's
the
time.
last track.
I think it's time for the
magnum opus.
The Echoes, the
Echoes.
24-minute prog rock masterpiece.
Yeah.
I would say this is literally what people know this album for. It is, as people do know, 24 minutes long, which people see and be like, oh, I don't want to listen to 24 minutes of it, but give it a chance, really.
Yeah. Well, that's why prog is so good. The songs have to be long, because it's not like you're listening to the same song for 20 minutes. Whilst you're at the start of the song and the end of the song, if you listen to them separately, you wouldn't even be able to tell they're the same thing.
Exactly.
It's an evolution.
I think with people what get confused about prog, it's not rock and roll. It's meant to progress, in the name progressive rock.
Yeah.
It's meant to not stay the same. It's so flow and creative. And the amount of instruments they put in with it as well. I mean, it just can work so well, especially on Echoes. I mean, the wind machine, they don't really know
the ambience.
The way they did like the intro as well, the
and
singing,
the different way they play those instruments as well.
Yeah.
Slide.
The
guitar
live on
at the
Pompeii
start.
version in Pompeii.
100%. I feel like if they'd put the live at Pompeii version on the second half of the record instead of Echoes, it probably would be my favourite album.
I do agree with that. I really do agree with that.
The live version is leaps and bounds beyond, but it's still so incredible on the record.
just the intro, the ding.
Yeah.
Ding. What actually created that? I don't know what did that.
It's a piano. Yeah.
That actually makes a lot of sense now.
Well, I think it's a really old,
sense.
rickety one, like a honky tonk almost.
Yeah.
But
It works. See,
dissonance and reverb.
It's the same with. Oh, what's another song they used? Actually, I think in Summer '68 they used an really old guitar to get that really sound.
Oh, crunch.
Yeah, it was really
nice,
crunch.
Nice sound.
You know the way that old bands used to punch holes in that to get that to get that
like
sound.
The Kinks and things that break their amps to get it to sound crunchy.
Exactly. They used to do all sorts of that just to make sure it gets that type of grungy rock sound. 100%. But that does just work as well. I really do think that does just work just for what it is.
Well, it's so the whole structure of it is amazing. The amount of different styles they fit into the span of 20 minutes. I mean, this section here, this kind of after all of this slow,
the funky part.
Bassy,
we have to talk about the funky part. We're going to talk about the whole song.
Moving, and it builds and builds and builds so organically that you hardly notice. And then there's this huge build up, and then suddenly it all just drops, and you're hit with this bass line. And it's simple.
And then it comes up that first bend.
It's David Gilmour, man, using lots of double stops and they're like pieces of chords.
His
essentially.
blues methods are just so incredibly we've seen it all before. We've seen it with a lot of artists before, but none of them can make a guitar sing like that. None of them can really. None of them can do that in that way because he kind of just took it and then made it better.
It's his phrasing.
It's just all in his phrasing, isn't it? It's
as
just
a guitar
all
player,
in his phrasing.
He's so incredible as a guitar player because a lot of what we consider to be good or virtuosic now is how fast someone can play and shredding and things like that. But back in the 70s, more say, when that wasn't really happening, you had a lot of people like David Gilmour who'd lean more towards how you play the notes to evoke emotion. And that's not to say that you can't evoke emotion with, like say a metal solo or something like that. You definitely can.
Yeah, exactly.
But it wouldn't work for something like Echoes. You need David Gilmour to make it sound like
Echoes. Is Echoes for how it's constructed. It's constructed in a very specific way. It just wouldn't work with any other genre.
No, well, Pink Floyd are almost their own genre.
Yeah, I agree with that. I do 100%. Think that Pink Floyd is their own genre. It's just their own sound. It's just not just it's their own whole. I mean, the whole discography just is different.
Yeah.
But you can definitely hear from metal. Well, the reason we do love metal so much is because
we do.
yes, we do. We really do. We really do. But it is just because of Echoes. I mean, that part with the whale noise as well. After the funky part,
bit of tech behind that too.
There is. Would you like to explain us how that is done, also?
I can if you like, man. Yeah. I was gonna anyway.
It's really done. How very creative, very interesting how they came up with it as well.
Well, people don't talk about that. Well, I'm sure they do, actually. That's probably a lie, they do. But Pink Floyd were incredibly innovative in sound design and things like that. Essentially, all he does to make that noise is it's a practical effect. No, obviously no technology at that time could replicate it digitally, because there's no such thing. But essentially, you take this thing called a wah-wah pedal, and you plug it in backwards. Yeah, and you roll it all the way back, and you take the tone control on your guitar, which is this little knob that sits at the bottom of it, and you just twist it back and forth, and as you roll it forwards, you get this odd sound, which you can hear now. You can hear it.
It's very... I mean, it's just weird how they found that out. I mean, you just do that.
I suppose, knowing them, they'd probably just be, messing about.
Yeah, they were just in that. They were just in there going, what will happen if I do that? Oh, that sounds alright.
Have a little... Oh, Roger, check us out, man. You gotta see this.
Well, if that's the way it works, that's the way it works. I mean, but we got to talk about one of my favourite parts of Echoes. Maybe not your favourite, but probably is after when it comes back and goes bang, and that big, the big cymbal.
Yeah, the gong.
That's it, the gong. Yes, that is what I was trying to.
Roger loves a gong.
Yeah, because in the L'Impervé version, you see him banging on that thing. It's
he loves that
massive, and it just creates that great sound. Yeah. And just that bit where it comes back and goes...
But it's so grandiose. Oh, the cool...
Oh, it sounds so good. It is my favourite part on the album, apart from the funky part.
Yeah.
I guess just that kind of shows how diverse their music can be in just one album. I mean, metal... You wouldn't really see it in some other albums. I mean, Dark Side keeps a constant theme of, that constant sound, if you know what I mean. And same with Animals as well. But with metal, they kind of experiment. Obviously, you can just tell that's when they started really finding and experimenting with music and sounds.
Well, they got more strict with their themes, I suppose. Yeah. You can kind of call this a concept album-ish, because it's kind of got that relaxed, tropical kind of feel about the whole thing. But it's not a concept album in the same way that Dark Side is.
Yeah, Dark Side forever will be the concept album. Or The Wall, or just anything that comes after. But we do really thank metal for its contribution to prog rock.
100%.
And I think we're going to call it the end of the episode or something.
I
hope you really enjoyed the first episode of Progcast. Yeah. That went pretty well, I think.
Swimmingly. Hopefully it doesn't sound like us talking a load of bollocks for however long that went on.
It'll be good. But anyway, we hope you have a very pleasant evening. And we're just going to... we hope we see you in the next one.
Yeah.
Progcast.